What's going on, guys? Willie Stickley here. Today we're going to be talking about the SV220 dual narrowband filter. Now the SV220 dual narrowband filter can come in two sizes. I have the 2-inch version, so I can have that fit up to a APS-C or full frame sensor. And you can also get the 1 1/4 inch, which will be useful for smaller systems or if you're on a budget. That filter, the 1 1/4, comes in at 100, and this one, the 2-inch, comes around 130. Packaging, the filter, also in the box, we get our handy dandy bandpass graph. You'll see we have 2 spikes in our graph, and one of them will be at 656 nanometers, which will be hydrogen alpha light, and the other will be around 495 nanometers, which will be oxygen 3, or doubly ionized oxygen. Why would you want to isolate to those specific elements? Well, hydrogen takes around like 74% of the universe, so a lot of light to be gathered there. And since hydrogen alpha is the first emission spectrum of hydrogen, it is the most common light ever in the entire universe, so you're going to get a lot of the data and you'll isolate it very well. As for oxygen, oxygen is often associated with active star formation, or you'll see it a lot in the death of a star, like in, for example, the Cygnus loop. In that supernova, you're going to see a lot of rich oxygen. In a Wolf-Rayet star, it's shedding its outer core, so you'll see some there. So if we take a look at our graph again, the width of these spikes that we have are determining the bandpass we have on our filter, or another way of determining filter quality. For a narrowband filter, the smaller width of these peaks, the more narrow it's going to be, the more light it's going to block out and isolate signal. So you'll be refining your signal noise ratio on just the actual signal you're trying to isolate. The thinner the gap, thinner the width of these, the more refined the result. Also, if you want to shoot through the moonlight, if you want a chance to get decent data on even a full moon, you can do that on this filter. If your target is like a mission nebula, feel free. I'm going to show a shot later, Ghost of Cassiopeia. Actually, well, Sharpless, what is it? Sharpless 185. That I shot during I think 89% moon illumination, and I mean, I'm pretty happy with the results. I'll show you guys, and you'll see. It's pretty great. A nice benefit of using a dual narrowband filter as a general side effect of having less light go through to your sensor, you're gonna have smaller stars, so it'll make it a lot easier to work with and isolate your nebula. Now, let's see how this filter performs for its halos and its star performance. Let's check that in PixInsight. So now that we're in PixInsight, we can take a look and see what I've captured with this filter. All of these images were taken on the Rokinon 135. Some of them were with my f2.2 modification, some not without. The settings will be labeled on the left-hand side so we can tell, and I'll mention all the settings for each shot. They were all taken on the Rokinon 135. They were using the SV220 dual narrowband filter, of course, and this was on my Celestron AVX for tracking. So we have the Heart Nebula IC1805, we have the Elephant's Trunk IC1396, we have the Horsehead in Flame, which IC434 and NGC 2024, I think is what the flame is. You can guys fact check me on that. We then have the Ghost, as I call it, Sharpless 185, which is next to Gamma Cas. Most people would recognize this region as IC63, the Ghost of Cassiopeia, but that's the Reflection Nebula. And since we're working with a dual narrowband filter, we're going to be working with primarily just the hydrogen and the oxygen. So it's going to be the Sharpless catalog for this one. Then we have the Cygnus loop. This is our exception shot. It's going to be at 60 seconds, as well as the fact that when I took this shot, I wasn't perfectly, I didn't set my back focus correctly. I was about 2 millimeters off from perfect back focus. So as you can tell, the stars are a little cooked in this image. But for isolating signal, I'm blown away already. And then as a test, I wanted to see how it would perform on a dark nebula. So I chose LDN 1266, the Boogeyman Nebula, as my test for that. And right away, I can't believe I got Dark Nebula with a dual narrowband filter. I'm not sure what I was expecting, but not that. These are also all raw stacks out of PixInsight. These are all 2x drizzles, with the exception of 2 later images I'll show you, which will be the side-by-side of a UV-IR and the HA03 filter. Now, immediately what I can tell is that for any relatively reasonable, not super bright intensity star, the filter performs flawlessly. It's insane. I love these stars. Like, I have no complaints. They're round. My structure is preserved. So everything's sharp. Everything is well isolated. And for this image, only had 4 hours of integration, which I find absolutely insane. At f4, it's amazing. But if we go to something like with a really bright star, back to that point I was talking about, let's look at Gamma Cassiopeia. Gamma Cassiopeia has a pretty intense halo, I'd say. It's workable, like easy to remove on something like this, in which there's just background space to work with, so you can easily clone stamp it. But something like All in Attack, honestly, it performs pretty well. I was pretty impressed, even that this one was at f3.2, which explains also the star shapes with these strange diffraction spikes. That is because of the lens, not because of the filter. We're looking at these halos here, which I hope are preserved. But on extremely bright stars, yes, you will still have some halos, so you will have to do a little bit of halo removal. On any other star of relatively reasonable luminosity, it's gonna be a good performance. So yeah, I've only seen halos in my testing on All in Attack and Gamma Cassiopeia, which are some of the brightest stars in the night sky. So if your targets are anything near that, then maybe give it a consideration. Otherwise, you're gonna have a blast. Now, if we move on to the side-by-side, this is where I think things get really interesting. On the left, we have a region of the sky that outside of Lacerda that includes NGC 7331, which would be our galaxy here. And then we have a few other in a galaxy cluster called Stephan's Quintet. For these, also I will just say that the reason you see banding this is improper flats. So take that within consideration with all of this. This image on the left was shot at f2.8, and the image on the right was shot at f2.2. Same lens, only difference was these step-down rings. And so you can see right away that for galaxies at least, that getting a broadband signal definitely is a help for getting and retaining all the information you possibly can in this, in almost any galaxy. This also, I will say, I forgot to mention integration times. This image on the left is 4 hours, this image on the right is only 2 hours. So still, yet again, not true apples to apples. Also, yet again, 600-second exposures versus 180. If I were doing any longer, I would clip a lot of my data. So I apologize again for the less than apples to apples. Doing my best, trying to iterate, trying to improve. Now with that aside out of the way, we can get to the data itself. And so what I noticed right away is that on the Optilon UV-IR, on brighter stars, I'm getting a lot of halo infringing when I'm at f2.8. Whereas if on my narrowband system at a even faster focal ratio, I I'm hard pressed to find halos in this entire image. I can't find any. It's insane. So very good at reducing halos on medium intensity stars, and overall just reducing the size of said stars. But that does come at the cost of, if your target, for example, is a broadband source like a galaxy, you're definitely going to have a harder time bringing out some structure and detail. But then again, that's not what it's intended for. I just want to show all the use cases you can do it for. If we go to the region in the sky that actually has some hydrogen, the difference is staggering. This image on the right is the SV220 as a reminder, and this image on the left is the Optolong UVIR. And you can actually see the outline of the Great Lacerta Nebula at the bottom of it, whereas in here, I only can see it because I know it's there. And with the contrast of the gradient, it's something. Now, would I recommend the SV220 dual narrowband filter? If you are interested in getting into narrowband imaging, or at all interested in isolating your elements, absolutely. I would consider the best bang for your buck that you can have in filters at the moment. For $100, or depending on which filter you get, you can truly see the entire structure and detail of many emission nebulae and bring out structures you wouldn't see otherwise in galaxies. That, in my mind, worth every single penny. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Willie Stickley, and until next time, take care.